Let's talk about music theory. What a controversial topic. Everybody who says you shouldn't learn music theory is always all about, oh, just use your ear, develop your ear. Well, do you know how long it takes to develop your ear? Now, I'm not against developing your ear, but the way I look at music theory, I think it's a shortcut for most of the things that you're trying to do by developing your ear. It's very hard to just figure out how to do everything on this instrument and make it sound good just by using your ear. Music theory teaches you what sounds good together. It teaches you scales, the intervals within scales. It teaches you the keys in a chord so you can figure out what key a song is in. And you can go as far as you want with it. You don't need to learn all the modes and all that other fancy stuff. But just have some basic knowledge of music theory can really help you get better a lot faster and sound better on this instrument. So let's get into this a little bit. One of the most important parts of music theory is understanding what key a song is in. So I can't tell you how many times I've had people that I play with ask me, what key is this song in, before they go to take a solo or something like that. And this is really important, and it's not as difficult as you may think. So all of music theory is based off of the major scale, which just looks like this. So that's the major scale right there. It's 7 notes. That 8th note is just the octave. So all of those notes have scale degrees to them. And those scale degrees all are intervals, and they all have a chord underneath them. So it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That scale is in that form, and it also can look in a different shape. It can look like this. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what you have here is you have your 1 chord, your 2 chord, your 3 chord, your 4 chord, your 5 chord, your 6 chord, your 7 chord, and then 1 chord again. And with that knowledge, you can start figuring out what key your songs are in just by knowing this little pattern. If you like this lesson and you want to try and get better at guitar, then please hit subscribe. And you really only need those 6 notes. So that little pattern right there will teach you what key a song is in, because you can find the chords, right? Say you have a G to an E minor to a C to a D. Well, we have the G right here. We have an E minor right here. We have a C right here. We have a D right here. So that's easy. That's in the key of G. G was your 1. That's a common chord progression, right? But you get the idea. And then once you can start figuring out what songs your keys are in, you probably want to solo over that, and that's why you're worried about what key that song's in anyway. So if you want to solo over that, now you know it's in the key of G, you're going to want to use the G major scale or the G major pentatonic scale. And you can use that, and you can just noodle through that scale to solo. But if you really want to start sounding better while soloing, then you're going to want to do more than just use that scale. You're going to want to understand the intervals. So you're going to want to understand the chord construction, and you've probably heard of soloing with chord tones, and this is one of the #1 ways to make melodic solos. So if you're going to write a solo or you're going to improvise, you're going to really want to focus on hitting those chord tones as the chord passes, and that's going to make it more melodic. And this takes a lot of work to be able to do, but if you work on this every day for, say, a year, you're going to be pretty good at it. Whereas if you just try and noodle through a scale for a year, you're not going to be that much better than you were a year ago if you're not focusing on the notes that you're hitting. So the first thing you need to understand when you're soloing with chord tones is, what's the chord construction? What notes are in my chord? So if you have a G chord and it's a G major chord, the scale degrees or the intervals that make up that chord are a 1, a major third, and a 5. So what those notes in the major scale would be is you have this 1 right here. Then you have 1, 2, 3. So you have a 3 right here. And then you have 4, 5. Then you have a G major chord because it's a 1, a major third, and a 5. And if you don't know this basic stuff, then you're just trying to figure this all out by ear. You're trying to hit the notes that sound good when you're soloing. And you can get good that way. It's just going to take you longer. And that's fine. If you want to be one of the players that just learns by ear and everything, then that's a great way to play. But if you add a little theory on top, it's going to take you even higher, right? So that's my point, is that it can be a shortcut to get to. So if you're playing that G chord and you're just vamping on a G chord, and you want to solo over that, well, you're going to want to focus on your G note. And if we take this scale and bring it all the way down here, then your 1 is right here to your 3. And then you want to add in a 5. If we're going to talk about a minor chord, we have an E minor in that chord progression. And every minor chord is just a 1, a minor third, and a 5. And a minor third just takes that major third and it flattens it 1. So if you can find your E note right here, it would look like this. 1, 2, minor third is right here, whereas a major third would be. Then your 5 is still in the same spot, so minor third, 4, 5. Or. And with that, you understand your chord construction. And if you have a 7th chord, it's adding in a flat 7. If you have a major 7th, it's adding in a major 7th to these chords. So chord construction is very important. And once you start to understand these intervals, they're always in the same place. So you have a G right here, and this is part of your G pentatonic. Right, well, if you want to change this to the key of A, right, now you're playing over an A chord. Well, now you have your A pentatonic. And you have an A right here. It's in the same spot that G was, so you just change keys, and all your intervals are always the same distance apart. Your major third is always 2 whole steps away. Your 5 is always in the same spot. So your intervals are always going to be the same distance apart, which once you start understanding where they are within these scales, your different intervals, then you can start moving this around the neck, and you can start going into different positions of the scales and realizing that they're really just the same. So anywhere that you want to find a 1 and a 3, which is in your chords, you have a 1 right here. Well, if you know where another 1 is, another A note is, then you can find your 1 and your 3. And this works all over the neck in all the different positions. And you can start building your own chord voicings. When you find an A, you can find, which is your 1, you could find a 3, and you could find a 5. You could start making that minor. So if you wanted to make this minor, and then all your modes, if you really want to get into modes, is really just you're taking that major scale and you're just changing some of the intervals within it. Like one of the most popular modes is the Mixolydian mode. And the Mixolydian mode is just taking a major scale and instead of having a major 7 in there, you're flatting the 7. So if you went back to G, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. And that's really good to use based on what the chord progression is, right? So if your chord progression resolves around a 5 chord, then it's really good to use Mixolydian. These are things you pick up along the way. But I really just wanted to make this lesson and talk about music theory, because there's a lot of bad information about music theory out there, at least in my opinion, that it holds you back, that it boxes you in, that it's a waste of time to learn, and I just don't agree with any of that. So you can play the guitar all you want, but if you don't know how to make these sounds and how sounds relate to each other, then it's going to be a lot harder to advance forward. And you can certainly do it. You can write songs, you can write solos, you can improvise, you can play a lifetime without knowing any theory on this instrument because it's all shape-based. Everything we learn is shapes on a guitar. But if you really start to understand what's making up those shapes, what intervals are making up those shapes, how do I play those intervals while those chords are passing, then you can get better a lot faster than just trying to use your ear and always trying to be like, oh, this note sounds better than that note, so I'm going to try and focus on hitting this note when I'm soloing over these chords. Because I know from experience that that is very difficult for somebody who doesn't have a developed ear. I hope you like this lesson. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.